again, and welcome to Procurement Shorts, your one-source fix for everything making news in procurement and supply chain. Let's take a look at the headlines of the day. U.S. supply crunch hits farm equipment spares. Just weeks ago, we told you how the United States could look to capitalize on growing global demand for corn and soybean. Today, it seems like those efforts could hit a roadblock thanks to a shortage of farm equipment and spares. According to TractorZoom, which tracks the farm equipment space, procurement timelines for buying both equipment and individual components have increased from 6 months to 2 full years on the back of supply challenges. The Farm Equipment Finder reports that the January through March quarter saw row crop tractor volumes fall 55% year-on-year owing to poor inventories. Self-propelled sprayers, it said, saw a similar drop in sales in the same period. The Association of Equipment Manufacturers says supply chain bottlenecks have hit tractor sales. Year-on-year, tractor sales in the U.S. fell 8.2% in June. It claims even as sub-40 horsepower and mid-range tractors saw individual sales fall by 10.2% and 7.2% respectively. Not to be left out, four-wheel and two-wheel drive tractors saw sales decline by 3% and 12.4% respectively. On the bright side, self-propelled combined sales grew 25.3%. On the ground, farmers and equipment users have reported a pronounced shortage in spares too. Some users have begun stocking up on inventory to avoid facing mid-harvest equipment trouble. And that's because from coils, ball bearings, and tires, components that power farm equipment have seen inventories dip below projections. Manufacturers like Sutton Agriculture Enterprises, BW Implement, and Mechanical Transplanter have begun tripling orders to avoid running out of parts, even as uncertainties like shipping delays continue to persist. The US and EU are mulling over legislation that aims to avoid shortfall in critical medical supplies. The move comes as fears of public health emergencies amid a medical supply crunch exist in both markets. The European Medicines Agency, or the EMA, has identified a list of critical medicines required to deal with public health emergencies, whose supplies it will ensure through coordination with EU member states. Its first list includes critical drugs and vaccines for the prevention and treatment of COVID-19. This includes J-Cov-Den, Nuvax-Ovid, Dexamethasone, and Paxlovid, among other drugs manufactured by Johnson & Johnson, Novavax, Moderna, and Pfizer. Proposed EU legislation now mandates that manufacturers update the EMA on availability, potential shortages, and challenges to their supply chain. In the US, amid failed attempts to localize manufacturing of medical supplies, Washington, D.C. is mulling a customs fast pass that permits medical imports to be cleared ahead of other shipments. The proposal comes as data indicates that sourcing of drugs and medical equipment in the country is back to the pre-COVID approach of importing from China. According to market researcher IBIS World, there are only about 971 medical device manufacturers in the US, and that's just a 1.9 increase from 2021. According to the FDA, there are over 24 medical supplies presently in short supply, including PPEs, surgical gloves and gowns, syringes, contrast dyes, and dialysis products. According to the Premier Purchasing Group, the American market is experiencing 8 to 10 times the shortages that existed pre-pandemic. The global market for refrigerated trucking services could see its spend grow at a CAGR of 5.52%, according to a recent study. According to procurement tracker SpendEdge, that incremental spend could total to about $2.3 billion across continents this year. These findings come amid record-breaking temperatures reported in parts of Europe, the UK, and the US, as a heatwave continues to dominate these regions. The summer demand could see prices of refrigerated trucking services increase by 4 to 6% every year for the next 5 years. Suppliers, the report says, could choose from dynamic, volume-based, and cost-plus pricing models, depending on the region and existing demand. These include names like FedEx, United Parcel Services, and Deutsche Post, whose experience in cold chain deliveries is expected to be the deciding factor in absorbing a large chunk of this demand. We learned that these companies also come with advantages, including a vast international distribution network and better-equipped supply chain management. Some of the products that will rule the rest in driving cold chain services include vaccines and pharmaceutical products within the EU, and meat exports from South Korea, Japan, and Hong Kong to Europe and the US. Prices could be on the higher end of a spectrum in the EU market, owing to a shortage in truckers and trucking services. In the US, on the other hand, the renewed demand for refrigerated trucking comes as great news for a trucking industry that is facing a challenging phase amid oversupply, tepid prices, and job losses. Well, that's about all the time we have. Don't forget to log in to BureauLive.ai to keep pace on more news and views from this space. With that, it's goodbye from us.